Joe Biden had a press conference yesterday at the White House with German Chancellor Angela Merkel, where he defended his decision to lift Trump-enacted sanctions against Russia's Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which runs into Germany. Take a listen.
But by the time I became president, it was 90% completed, and imposing sanctions did not seem to make any sense. It made more sense to work with the Chancellor on finding out how she would proceed based on whether or not Russia tried to essentially blackmail Ukraine in some way. And so the Chancellor and I have asked our teams to look at practical measures we could take together and whether or not Europe energy security, Ukraine security are actually strengthened or weakened based on Russian actions.
Joining us now to discuss, former U.S. Ambassador to the Netherlands and former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Ambassador Pete Hoekstra, also with us, the president of the Center for Security Policy and former National Security Chief of Staff in the Trump administration, Fred Fleitz. Fred, let's go to you first. This seems to be a running stance on Nord Stream 2. It's not a big deal, nothing to see here. It was almost done anyway. Your response to how the president answered that question?
It makes no sense. He gave in to European globalist elites, and he was appeasing Russia. I think the reason is because his priorities are climate change and the Iran deal, and he's trying to score points with these people rather than holding the Russians accountable. I think that the explanation made no sense. I think the American people realized what he was doing here.
Yesterday, I spoke to Ambassador Rick Grinnell about German Chancellor Angela Merkel and Germany's relationship with the U.S. This was her last trip to the White House, to Washington as Chancellor. She's been Chancellor for 13 years, and he said essentially that. That Germany is moving much more toward the east than he is toward strengthening its relationships with the West, with the United States. Ambassador, I'd like to get your thoughts on that.
Rick is absolutely right. You know, we were co-ambassadors. I was in the Netherlands right next door to Germany, and we were working on many of the same issues. And I can tell you that one of the things we were very concerned about is we were concerned with where Germany was going. I mean, they are the biggest player in the EU. They set the tone and they set the tenor. Nord Stream 2 was a perfect example. The Dutch were part of the Nord Stream project. They helped with technology to build this thing. They helped with the financing of it. They're going to be some of the beneficiaries in terms of getting the gas. And the key operative word that the president said yesterday, it was 90% done. It wasn't done. The work that Rick was doing, the work that I was doing, the work that the president was doing, we'd stopped that project. We'd stopped it cold. And, 5-6 months into this administration, it's back on stream. It strengthens the ties between Germany and Russia. Absolutely. Germany's moving in a disappointing direction. They continue to be unwilling to pay for NATO. I think they pay like their commitment is 2% of GDP. They pay maybe slightly over 1%. They're not leading in Europe the way that we want them to lead.
Well, they're leading, it seems, in a very German sort of fashion. They are going their own way, and they're taking care of themselves, and they're making these deals with Russia. Now, would you agree, Ambassador, and Fred, I want to get your response to this as well. Would you agree that this kind of this approach seems like it's leading from behind 2.0 with letting Europe kind of drive the train on economic policy, foreign policy, response to China, and of course climate policy, which of course we saw a lot out of that out of Brussels this week on climate change policy?
President Trump made it very clear. Under America First, America was going to express its priorities and what it believed it wanted the world to do. He led. Joe Biden, I think when he was in Europe, what was the phrase? I think Macron welcomed him back into the club. Mm-hmm. And being part of the club means you don't lead.
Right. Yeah. I used to call Obama. I used to say Obama had a prom king type of approach to foreign policy. He always wanted to be the most popular man in the room, but and yes everybody, but never really wanted to do anything. Fred, your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, just like Obama, Biden is giving Europe a veto over U.S. foreign policy. He's giving away American sovereignty, not just to Europe, but also to the United Nations. That's why they hated President Trump so much. The European elitists do not want America to act on its own. They want to have a say. And you can just see what's going on here. That's what this club is. Ambassador Hoekstra is right. Welcome, Joe, back to the club. Remember when the members of the club were sitting around talking about raising global corporate taxes? That's not where the American people want our president to be. And, these people have so little spine, so willingness to stand up to our threats. It's extremely destabilizing.
I want to switch gears now. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas is under fire over his message to Cuban and Haitian refugees attempting to flee their countries amid the crisis in their countries. Take a listen.
The time is never right to attempt migration by sea. To those who risk their lives doing so, this risk is not worth taking. Allow me to be clear. If you take to the sea, you will not come to the United States.
Who is this guy? We have people flooding across the border from more than 100 countries. And now, because the Cubans seem to be standing up, he takes such a strong position. Don't come, unequivocal. Fred, does this seem tone deaf to you?
Look, the Democrats want to appease the communist government in Cuba. They see sticking up for the Cuban people as a Republican thing, a Trump thing. I think it's outrageous. These Cubans will have to flee to Mexico and come across the border because we won't let them in if they come by sea. This is really outrageous.
Yeah, I mean, look, it is dangerous. I get it, but where is that? Where was this Mayorkas when we're talking about people from over 100 countries? Almost 2 million people are expected to come across the border this year. Ambassador, do you think that if Cuban Americans were more reliably Democrat voters, that there would be a different tone here? And I say this because you're not only a diplomat, but you were an elected Republican member of the House of Representatives, so you understand the politics here. What are your thoughts?
Well, I would hope it would make absolutely no difference. This is about as clear of a foreign policy statement as America should be making at this time. We stand with the people of Cuba in their efforts to overthrow a communist regime. Communist regimes, China, they've killed how many people? They're doing genocide against their Uyghurs. The people, if this revolt fails, many of these people will face long terms in prison, or they may actually be killed. And we should be saying, we support you, we want you to be successful, and if it fails, however you can get out of Cuba, America is going to be a welcoming place for you. I mean, it's very ironic, like Fred said. Let them swim or get in a boat and go to Mexico, then you're welcome, because then you're going to be walking in. But if you want to come across the water and land in Florida, you can't. What an awful message for America to be sending to people who are in the middle of trying to overthrow a communist regime.
Yeah, we should be doing everything we can, because if the communists lose Cuba, it is a huge win for us, and a blow to China, to Russia, and to Iran, who are trying to up their activities in the Western Hemisphere. Thank you so much, Ambassador Hoekstra. Fred Fleitz, appreciate your insights.
Good to be here.
Hi, Emma Reckenberg here. If you like this video, there's a whole lot more to see on Newsmax TV. You can watch for free right here on our YouTube live stream and be the first one here each time our experts break down real news. Just hit that subscribe button, ring the bell icon, and stay with us on America's fastest growing cable news channel, Newsmax TV.